Welcome to Inside the Mind of Thaine Chase. Now, I'm so excited about this because it's a part of the Mindset Playground and it's a special series, a special edition directly from the mind of Thaine Chase. We're going to pull back the curtain and we're going to check out all of his ideas and what really goes on in that brain of his when he's writing these stories. You're going to hear about the stories, you're going to hear about the characters, you're going to get insiders information about these books, not available to any other readers. So, buckle up. Let's get started.
I can't write my book without my cover being done. I had this really quirky idea where he can't do what he's going to do unless he goes to confessional first. I was still getting over my dad's death when I started writing Rise by Sin.
Welcome back to the Mindset Playground. We are pulling the curtain back with this amazing author, Thaine Chase. And Thaine is talking about all of his books. And in this part one of the series, we're talking about the Corbin Dwyer series. Now, there's 4 books in this series, and we're going to talk about them kind of one by one, but yet together as a group. So the first book is Rise by Sin, and then Never Found Lying Down, and Blood Will Tell. And the 4th of the series is Dead Man's Tab. Now, all of these series or all of these books can be found on Goodreads and also on Amazon. But
Yes.
now we actually have the author of these books. Thaine, welcome to the stage.
Thanks so much.
So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about your books, Thaine, and I see you've got them all lined up there behind you. And
Yep.
you sent me a great photo, which we're going to be using in all of the thumbnails, which is great. You
Okay.
reading,
Yeah.
which is it's par for the course, so that's
Yeah.
good. So I know that a lot of people have questions about these books, and maybe they're not even familiar with them, but hopefully, once they read what the books are, sort of the caption about what they're about on
Mhm.
Goodreads, then what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you questions that kind of deal with the whole series and maybe just give us your thoughts on it and what's
Sure.
going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Happy to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that in our podcast, you mentioned something about you'd like to create a cover first.
Yes, I can't write my book without my cover being done. It's an ism, it's a quirkiness. I love it because it really kind of ignites me. When I get to the point where the cover really excites me, then I get excited about the words. But if I don't have a cover, for some reason the tyranny of the blank page just overwhelms me. It's bizarre. Yeah.
And
I
what
have no,
about
sorry.
no, that's okay. And what about the title? Is it the same thing?
Yes, I need a title and the cover done. Yeah. Title usually comes first. I've uh, I've written an entire book based on sitting around doing nothing, and then a title popped in my head, and the whole book became that just from the title. No story idea, just the title, and that was my sci-fi fantasy Empire of One. I just thought it was a really cool title, and then I wanted to design a cover, and I did the cover, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. Irish mythology. Da, 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 da. It's like, so it gave birth to the story, but the story didn't come first. It came last. So,
And Empire of One is going to be in the 3rd series that we're going to be doing of your
yeah, sorry, I
books.
didn't mean to jump
No,
to
that's okay.
it.
That's okay.
Yeah,
So that's what you have to look forward to, everyone.
yeah.
But for now, we're going to talk about Corbin Dwyer. How did you come up with this character?
Corbin, I guess it was, I know when I talked to you previously, I have kind of it's a Newfoundlander personality thing where you tell us we can't do something or you pigeonhole us into a formula, we buck. And I think it came with me from when I worked in film and television. Just before I left that industry, I noticed there was a huge swing. Now, Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey had always been around in the industry, but in the last few years when I was in the industry, I found it became all these new young executives, it was their obsession. And when I would take meetings to do pitches, elevator pitches, or even like extended meetings, all they did was reference the hero's journey. And it got to the point where they would read your stuff and they would say, okay, well, on page 5, we need this. On page 15, we need this. On page 27, we need this. And it's like, no, it's not how I write. And it's not how I tell a story. Because if you put formula in art, it's no longer art to me. It's mathematics. And it was another reason why I left the industry because it was so ingrained in these new young executives. And I mean, I'm not putting them down, nothing against them. They know what they want and they're adamant about what they want and they're allowed to. They're in charge. But I just found they were obsessed with the hero's journey. And the biggest thing about the hero's journey is, it's the stages. Like you have to have your hero go through the stages. So they get a quest, they get challenges, they get the victory, but they come back changed. And if your character doesn't go through this, no one wants to read your thing. So I think Corbin was my barbaric yop against that mindset. And he does go on quests. He does have challenges. He is victorious, but I make sure he doesn't change. And that was my take on Corbin. I wanted to write a character where everybody else around him changes. He does not. And that's what I wanted to make the difference. Now, a lot of writers and a lot of authors will probably tell you I'm digging in sand, but it worked for me. I'm really proud of my Corbin character. He does draw comparisons to some other literary characters, and that's fine because you can't avoid that, especially in a certain genre, especially action thrillers. But I think he's unique in that regard, and I can always kind of budgie up my chest and be proud of that, he changes everyone else, but he stays the same because of his background and because of the way he sees the world. So, the hero's journey actually is the reason Corbin Dwyer exists, I believe. So, thank you, Joseph
Interesting.
Campbell. So,
Yeah, the one of the questions that I had was Corbin ever meant to be a hero? Was he ever going to be a hero?
well, he
Or is
doesn't
he
see.
more of a moral reckoning, someone who absorbs the darkness so others don't
Yeah,
have to?
yeah. I don't think Corbin sees himself as a hero because of the way he sees the world, and he has also another thing I gave him, which a lot of action heroes don't have. He has a real spiritual bent to him. Um, and the way I came upon that was I used to love when my dad was alive, and I don't know if you remember from the late 70s, early 80s, the Incredible Hulk TV series with Bill
Oh,
Bixby.
yes. Yes.
Okay. I would watch that show, not for the show, but to watch my dad watch the show. And I waited for the moment. You remember when Bill Bixby was just about to turn, he'd get the white eyes?
Yes.
I used to get such a kick out of it would happen, and my dad would be sitting in his chair, and as soon as Bill Bixby's eyes went white, Dad would be like, "Oh, you're going to get it now," and he was so engaged, and he didn't do that with a lot of shows, but that show did, and I remembered that. So when I was writing Corbin, I wanted something that maybe the reader would be like, "Ooh." So I had this really quirky idea where he can't do what he's going to do unless he goes to confessional first.
Oh, wow. That's the
So,
white-eyed part.
yes. So when you're reading and you know the Corbin Dwyer character and and stuff's happening and stuff's happening and stuff's happening, and then you get to that point where he goes to see the priest, that's when people go, "Oh, it's on now." Because from that point on, the book is just going to be nothing but chaos and just him doing what he does. That was again from that moment, I wanted my readers to have that moment where they go, "Oh boy," or "Oh no," or whatever, but a reaction. So I
Yes.
wanted that, and also, I personally would watch a show or movie or read a book, and the villain does such horrible things for the entire 2 hours of the movie or the series or the book, and then the hero wins. But it's like I used to always feel so robbed when it was just like bang, one shot, the guy's dead, and it's over. And I never understood why, because I would sit and say that individual caused human suffering for decades or for hours or for whatever, and their reckoning was it was over in a second. And so when I do my Corbin, when he has the reckoning with the villains of the piece, it's always different. The ending's always different, and it's usually dictated by their reaction, not Corbin's. It's
Ah,
tough to do because he goes in with a mindset, but he's some people might say it's sadistically evil, but I just like to be creative in the ending of my villains. I just don't like the bang, they're gone, it's over. So there was all those wants created the character, and I think that's why. Now remember though, Corbin, like Rise by Sin, was supposed to be a one-off. I I didn't have a series in mind when I wrote it.
right,
It was going to be a one-off Corbin Dwyer. I just wanted to write an action thriller because I wanted to check off another box, right?
right.
In my genre thing, because I want to try to write as many genres as I can, because everybody's telling me, oh, if to be a good writer, you write one genre. Again, telling me what to do. I'm going to not do it. I'm going to go the other way. So I
Yeah, I
had,
was going to say to you that these Corbin Dwyers, they kind of seem to, it's almost like they leave great cliffhangers so that you want to read, okay, so now what did he do? So now
yeah,
what's next? So
yeah,
what's going on? Like, for example, let me go into Blood Will Tell. Okay,
yes.
so Corbin Dwyer's in there. And what fascinated you the most about writing the teacher versus student? Like, that is so amazing, like that whole dynamic. So, what was
Well,
it that fascinated you the most about that?
because basically it's Corbin is really fighting himself,
Okay.
because his mentor, his instructor, his teacher made him who he was. He broke him down to nothing and then rebuilt him, right? So for like Blood Will Tell is the third book. So in the first two books, especially the second book, you learn all about this mentor, right?
Okay.
So um, you you sort of you get to see where Corbin came from, and you really like the mentor because it's like, wow, he makes this character. He's making this character. This is amazing. So then when Blood Will Tell, like in the end of the second book, it's revealed that the instructor has been sent out to take Corbin out. So you're sitting there going, no, they're like father son. That doesn't no. So, but it's not when you start to read, especially the way I interact in the third book, you start to realize Corbin's battling himself because this man made him. Now, of course, it's not himself, it's an actual person, but that person is him and he is that person. Um, I don't know if you ever watched any of the original Star Treks, but there was an episode where Kirk gets split in two, the good Kirk and the bad Kirk.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, the bad Kirk doesn't have certain strengths that he needs to do certain things, and the good Kirk doesn't have certain strength he needs from the bad Kirk. And it was kind of a neat thing. So I think there's a little bit of that in there, the good and the bad. But basically, the student versus teacher, it's classic. Like it's the guy knows everything you're going to do because he taught you. But
Right.
but what people also forget, the moment you leave your instructor, whether it's you don't see him a day later a decade later or 50 years later, whatever the amount of time from the moment you said goodbye to your teacher to the moment you meet him again, there's a that part in there, you still evolve somehow, some way,
Right.
because you're out in the world interacting. So it's when they do battle, yeah, he's taking on his student, but it's not the same guy because he's had all these experience post training. So he's technically his student, but he's a different animal, and that's where that kind of comes to be, right? That's
Well, that makes sense because these four books that we're talking about today, they kind of represent Corbin's inner journey. That's
hmm
what you wrote about. So what lesson does each one teach him? What do you want the readers to take away at each stage? Like what lesson are you really honing in on?
Well, I guess you are who you are, and no matter how fast you run, no matter how quickly you duck into a corner or go hide, you are who you are, and you're never alone, right? Um, and that old saying, when you're by yourself is when you're least alone.
Yeah.
Corbin is the poster boy for that because of his military actions when he was, and I'm not giving anything away. So, but he's in the French Foreign Legion. He did some horrible things that he accepts, in the atrocities of war. But I think that's why he knows, like in Rise by Sin, he was trying. It was like the retired gunfighter. You know, he was the guy he was Shane, right? He didn't want to fight anymore. He didn't want to this. He was trying to find something from his past, but it was nothing to do with confrontation or military. It was just something he wanted to delve into. He was trying to keep himself to himself. But when you have a certain energy, you're born a certain way or you're made a certain way, the universe hates a vacuum. So when he took himself out, no more of this, no more guns, no more military, no more action. He left a vacuum, and the universe hates a vacuum, so it's going to fill it, and it fills it by pulling him back, whether he wants to or not. So in Rise by Sin, I didn't reinvent the wheel. It's retired gunfighter, right? Learns that his father has passed away, goes home because he promised his dad he would do something. But then when he gets there, he realizes it's not an average death. It was murder. And then all of a sudden, wow, everything happens. And he realizes this is who I am. Maybe that's what I got to do. And um, so and it was a one-off, and I didn't end on a cliffhanger. I ended on closure, but I left the door open. But like again, it was leaving the door open simply not because to do another book, simply because I wanted the reader to create their own life for Corbin. That's why I left it open, right? I wanted him to finish reading Rise by Sin going, ah, well, I hope he finds it. He's going to find it. He's pretty smart. He's going to find it. It's good. Or a pessimistic reader, wow, he's never going to find that, but good for him. I wanted the reader to be able to make their own ending. So people might call it a kind of a cliffhanger, well, not a cliffhanger, but an open-ended ending, which it
Yeah.
was, but it was not with the intent to write another book. It was to give my reader the ability to create their own ending for Corbin. But when I got so much feedback from Rise by Sin and people screaming for another one, that's when I was like, okay, maybe I better look at this more seriously. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So they weren't really written to kind of like stack on top of the other or to
Not Rise by
continue a
Sin.
story, but
Yeah, not Rise by Sin, but when I wrote Never Found Lying Down, the second one, I already had the third one ready. Now,
yeah.
I thought it was only going to be a trilogy. Okay.
So what happened?
Again, the feedback for Blood Will Tell, people just writing me going, no, 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 you got to do another one. You can't, because I don't want to do spoilers, but the ending of Blood Will Tell, I thought it was justified because of all his actions in the three books. And some people were oh, because they knew there was more. Maybe I didn't know, but they knew there was more. And I had a lot of people writing me going, no, 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 you can't leave him there. No. And and their reactions were so visceral, I couldn't ignore it. So I'm like, all right, I'll do one more, right?
One more.
But Corbin Dwyer 5 is now in the works.
Yeah, there you go. So
So
let's talk about real quick before we move on, because this kind
yeah,
of answers my next question, this Dead Man's Tab.
yes,
So you brought Corbin back. Not that I want to give any spoilers, but you brought him back from presumed dead.
yes.
And what question were you really asking? Were you asking, like, can we ever truly leave our past behind?
I again, I'd say yes. But I treat Dead Man's Tab more as the universe kind of looking down at this guy going, you know what? We need to buy him a present. He's gone through so much and he was willing to, and again, it's not a spoiler because it's actually in the blurb, but Corbin, you know, fakes his death so people will just leave him alone. And then something happens and he has to resurrect. But I think my mindset on that was it's not going to be the typical, okay, people thought he's dead. Now he's coming back. He's going to kick butt, take names, and then leave again. No, he's going to get rewarded now because he's so punishing of himself, right? Like people say, well, you know, he always wins. But to me, Corbin never really wins in his mind because of his spiritual bent and his guilt. Basically, Corbin believes no matter what he does in this life, no matter who he saves, no matter how many villains he puts away or whatever he does, he's hellbound. He just believes that. So his job in his mind is to fill hell as much up with the bad guys as he can before he himself goes. He has no misconceptions about ever being forgiven or ever finding that spiritual place where he will ascend. He has made his peace with what he's done and he's going to continue to do it because he believes that it's his job just to fill hell with as many bad souls as he can before he gets taken out. That's Corbin. So he never wins. There is no victory for him. There's just the battle for him. That's how Corbin sees the world. So when we give him the ending we give him in Dead Man's Tab, I think the readers will be like, oh, how's he going to react to that? Because he thinks he's worthless. He's such an evil, he's such a, like he's like chaotic good. You know, he does good things, but he does them in very bad ways. Right. And I think that's, again, I do it for the reader, hoping that they'll be like, wow. And I hope they get a different reaction from each reader. Like I hope each reader's personality will get a different reaction to what happens for Corbin in the end of book 4, right? So, I mean,
That's in Blood Will Tell. And then, so the one that you're ready, or I'm sorry,
Dead
Dead
Man's
Man's
Tab, yeah.
Tab. And then, so what is the name of the one that you're writing now?
I haven't started the fifth Corbin, but the title is Dry Bones Rattle. Yeah.
You already have a title.
Yeah, I don't have the cover yet, but I got the title. So, and like I said, it's just because I'm finishing a current work right now, and it's really emotionally draining. So I can't really because if I start putting myself in Corbin, it's going to ruin my edits. So I got the title, but now I have to leave it away. I have to leave it alone now, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm focused just on my current book to get it finished, and then I can go further than just the title. But
Well,
yeah.
maybe we'll do a bonus show where we can pull the curtain back on your current book.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah, there we go.
yeah, this is
But
probably the hardest one I've ever written for me, personally. There's uh there's a lot of my life in this book. I mean, the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but
exactly.
but
But let's continue on with
Yeah,
Corbin
sorry. Yes, Corbin, let's
because
get
we'll
back.
do that as a bonus. We'll
Yes.
come back and we'll do a whole bonus section on the
Yes,
latest
don't
book,
get me
when
started.
it's coming out. We'll do some like behind the scenes stuff. We'll give people, a chance to maybe get their name on a list or something so that they can be the first to
Yeah.
read it, be the
Yeah.
first to order it.
Yeah.
So, because that's
Yeah,
always
no problem.
exciting.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
So let
so
me
yeah,
just,
but sorry, go
we're
ahead.
ready to dive deeper into the books and the characters and the moments that shape them. Join us on the next episode.